Hey, what's up, everybody? Andy from Nostalgic About Baseball here. Just had a lot of fun going through a bunch of statistics, and what I'm doing is I just created a little all-time team for RayFromPhilly's 1,000 subscriber contest, and the guy's channel is awesome. I will put a link to it in the description here. But yeah, man, just congrats. I found you. I don't know. I'm kind of new to this community, so I've been watching your stuff just for the past month or two. But I've really been enjoying it. And anyway, had a ton of fun putting together an all-time team. So spoiler alert, none of these players are on my team. But we'll go through it real quick and try not to bore y'all with too much. I don't think anything's too controversial here. But behind the plate, at catcher, I went with Yogi Berra. It was a tough one, but 3-time MVP, 15-time All-Star. He hit for good average and power, and I mean, what a character. Guy's freaking hilarious. So Yogi Berra is behind the plate. At first, this was tough, but I went with Stan Musial. Look, 3,600 hits, 331 career average, 475 home runs. Guy was a beast. So that's who I went with at first. At second, I really wanted to put Ryan Sandberg in, but Rogers Hornsby has to be my guy. Just his average season, so if you just look at his whole career and look at his average season, he'd be hitting 358 with 22 home runs, 114 batted in, 39 doubles and 12 triples in an average year. So it's tough to argue with that. At shortstop, I did do something a bit different. I went with the Wizard, Ozzie Smith. I'm going for defense and speed. So he was awesome as a kid growing up. I loved watching him with the backflips and all the rest. 13-time Gold Glove winner. Racked up 580 steals in his career. And, of course, like a perennial all-star. Zero power. But, man, he was phenomenal at shortstop. So I went with Ozzie Smith. At third, people are going to just think I'm super biased here, but I couldn't decide between a few great players, so I had to give the tie to my home team and go with Chipper Jones. Look, switch hitter. His average year was hitting 303 with 30 home runs and 105 batted in. Guy was real solid defensively, doesn't get enough credit for his defense. A big guy over there on the hot corner, and would lay out for balls, and had a real good move to first. And anyway, obviously recently inducted in the Hall of Fame. First ballot should have been unanimous. So I've got Chipper. At third. I'm sure Philly fans going to love that. Out in the outfield, left field, got to go with Ted Williams. Look, I love all those players who in their prime went off and fought during World War II, and he was one of those. He did 3 years of military service, just right in the middle of his prime. What I love about Ted Williams is that he only struck out 7% of the time. So in almost 9,800 at-bats, he only struck out 700 times in his career. Pretty phenomenal. So Ted Williams in left, just going with Willie Mays in center because you have to, right? 12-time Gold Glove winner. 2-time MVP. His average year looks something like, batting .303 with 36 home runs, 103 RBIs, and making all kind of diving plays out there in center. Swiping 18 or 20 bags. He was a five-tool guy and awesome. In right, of course, Babe Ruth. And I won't talk about his accolades as a hitter because everybody knows those. But he had a 67%, over a 67% winning percentage as a starting pitcher. His average year as a pitcher was 21-10 with a 2.28 ERA, which is insane. And if you think about, had he not pitched for those few years at the beginning of his career, how many more home runs could he have finished with? So the Babe is in right. Led the league in home runs 12 times and led the league in walks 11 times. He's a guy who had over 2,000 walks in his career as well. And, of course, the 342 lifetime average. So, taking us to pitchers, my right-handed pitcher starter is going to be Greg Maddux, and I'm going to stick with that. There was a lot of other options. Bob Gibson was up there for me. Nolan Ryan was up there for me. And there's, of course, many, many others. But for me, Greg Maddux is the guy. And I know I'm biased as a Braves fan, but, he did it with, no velocity. It was all location and movement. And you talk about one of the highest baseball IQs maybe ever. The guy has like an encyclopedic memory where he would set up batters in situations, intentionally throwing them pitches that he knows they can handle so that, a month later when he gets a guy in a similar spot, he can go with something different and get him when it matters most. There's all kind of stories about him doing that. So the Professor, Greg Maddux, is my right-handed pitcher. My starting lefty, Sandy Koufax. What I like about him, 2.76 career ERA. I like that he threw 27 complete games in each of his two final seasons, and he was just dominant. So you got to go with Sandy Koufax as the lefty. Closers, I went a little unconventional here, and this is just personal preference. So I'm going with Dennis Eckersley as my right-handed closer. And from the left, I'm going with John Franco. Just because those are two guys that I really liked growing up. You could make arguments for them. You could make arguments against them. I know Mariano Rivera, Billy Wagner, so on and so forth. But for me, I'm going Eckersley and Franco. And that's it. That's my all-time team. So I think it would stack up pretty well against just about anybody's. Yogi Berra, Stan Musial, Rogers Hornsby, Ozzie Smith, Chipper Jones, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Babe Ruth, Greg Maddux, or Koufax starting the game with Eckersley or Franco coming in to finish it off. And by the way, this is so much fun. I've spent an hour, maybe more, just staring at baseballreference.com, and I never mind doing that. It's always fun. But congrats, Ray, on 1,000 subscribers. It's freaking awesome. You make really good content, and I'm happy that you're doing this. It's fun to participate in the community and do different things like this. Usually I just open up packs and show off mail day stuff as I'm kind of getting back into collecting, but making an all-time team like this sure was a lot of fun. So thank you. Congratulations again. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.